Hello there, how is everyone? I hope you're well on this terrific Tuesday. And you're looking absolutely terrific, by the way. And look, I'm out in the terrific, glorious sunshine, because it's a rarity here. And when you have it in the UK, you have to grab it with both hands like it's a slice of pizza. I can only reminisce on eating pizza because of my new healthy lifestyle. Anyway, I digress. I must stop thinking about pizza. But today we're thinking about something because someone sent me a message yesterday. Well, it wasn't a message, it was a comment on one of the videos that I did. And they were talking about Bryan Kohberger in the Idaho 4 case. And they made a very, very valid point, and I'd like to thank that person for making that statement, because I feel that it's something that perhaps people forget, they don't consider. And why it's important to consider it is because in order to be proper, to be right and proper, we have to consider that everybody has their rights. Do you know what? You as American citizens have rights, and that is that if you're accused of doing something, you have the right to face your accusers, you have the right to your day in court, and you until that point comes and all the evidence has been seen, everything has been argued, and all the facts come out, you have 12 people who will ultimately decide whether you are indeed guilty or you are indeed not guilty. And the point being that in the event that Bryan Kohberger isn't guilty of the crime, then someone else must be guilty of the crime. Do you know what I mean? And it's at this moment in time, he has not been proven to be guilty of this crime. Hey, look who it is. Look who it is, by the way. Let's grab him. Look who's come to join us. Hello. This is Casper. Hello, Casper. You want some food, don't you? You definitely want some food. Yes, this is Casper. I'll take you in and get you some food in a second. Now you've covered me in hair, you wretched creature. But anyway, where was I before I was rudely interrupted by the dweeb? So, if you remove Bryan Kohberger from the equation, everything becomes somewhat clearer, doesn't it? It becomes clear. It's almost like by inserting Bryan Kohberger into the scenario of the Idaho 4 crime itself, there's a murkiness that comes with it. There's certain things that we've had to see happen in order for the narrative to actually make sense. And we've spoken about them over the last couple of days with respect of Kathy Mabbutt originally saying that she believes the murders happened around 2 a.m, 3 a.m, when in fact it would be after 4 a.m, sort of 4:15, 4:17 and onwards. And the car, the FBI, the 2011 white Hyundai Elantra that has been altered in order to fit with Bryan Kohberger's 2015 Hyundai Elantra, and things like that. Do you know what I mean? There's been elements of the case that's been changed. Even the phone evidence. Do you know what I mean? These phone masts and cellular data. These masts will pick up a 27 square mile radius. So in effect, Bryan Kohberger, who lived approximately 10 miles away from Moscow, Idaho, could be at home and still ping on the towers that they are saying they're using to prove that he was in fact in the area. And we're yet to hear what Cy Ray has to say about that. But again, let's just put a pin in that for now. So with Bryan Kohberger inserted into this crime, there is a degree of confusion. Obviously you've got the people who are flat out, they'll believe everything that they hear, and I still believe that the vast majority of the people who have Bryan Kohberger as the person who did it do so based on what they've heard either Nancy Grace say, or Jennifer Coffin-Digger, or Butfield. Do you know what I mean? These are three main voices in amongst the community who are just spreading misinformation, disinformation, and pushing this narrative of Bryan Kohberger being this incel. We've even heard cannibal, and that seems to be what's spurning people on to believe that this guy is the guy who did it. And again, I'm not naive enough to believe that he's still here, that he couldn't have done it. I just haven't personally seen enough. Do you want to come back up here or something? And it's like, I think to myself, if you remove Bryan Kohberger from the equation, everything becomes so much more clear. But the problem is, it also becomes so much more damaging to the entity such as the University of Idaho. Obviously, we know that there's this potential acquisition of the Phoenix University that's worth around $200 million. Well, people have been killed over a $10 vape. So when you're talking about $200 million, there is an incentive there to not bring unwanted attention to your establishment, especially if that starts opening a can of worms as to what the actual, what the culture is like. And we find out that things like this are just part and parcel of the Idaho way. And, we've seen, again, I mentioned this yesterday, the Timmy Reed situation, that I saw comments, and I put them in a video previously, where people are saying, this ain't nothing new. This is just the culture. Things like this happen, and they just get brushed aside, hidden away. It just so happens that Timmy Reed and his family have decided to seek legal intervention, if you like, to bring it out into the light, to make sure that it doesn't continue happening. But we know that there was this fight. We know. That's just a fact. And I said yesterday, I briefly said, you may not have seen it, but I talked about Bethany Funk and her exculpatory evidence, and I thought to myself, you know what? If she didn't leave after that party, and she in fact stayed back, and Ethan and Xana went home, and she overheard potential threats, that's exculpatory evidence, because that is somebody who is at ground zero, who interacted with two of these victims and had potentially threatened the lives of them. And again, with Bryan Kohberger, there is none of that. There is no stalking. Both the prosecution and the defence have turned around and said there's no proof of stalking. Ann Taylor has alluded to the fact there doesn't seem to be any connection. And we've got a crime that seems to have stemmed from some degree of passion, or if not passion, then absolute anger and just rage and aggression. And I spoke yesterday about the narcotic situation, and with respect of not necessarily cartel involvement and things like that, but perhaps this was just an individual who was rage-filled due to the consumption of anabolic steroids, and that, to me, if you remove Bryan Kohberger out of the equation and you factor in what we would know without that, how would you feel about the case? What would your mind be then? Even if law enforcement came out and said, well, we interviewed everybody, and they're all scot-free. They've got alibis. What are their alibis? Well, they're each other's alibis. They happen to stick up for one another. Doesn't it just seem very lucky, very, very lucky, that Bryan Kohberger dropped a knife sheath at the scene of the crime that just led to a series of, unfortunate for him, events that he would eventually be caught. It just leads people to be skeptical. I'm skeptical. Are you skeptical? Or how do you feel about things? Just lucky, isn't it? Just lucky how things go, how things turn out. Because it would have been real bad had that knife sheath not been dropped. I'll catch you all in the next one.